Scabbard back here with you, High Noon Leatherworks, for another leather adventure. And today we're going to do something with some buckskin, and I've got a deer hide here that has been tanned, and I am going to attempt to make a buckskin scabbard for this 50 cal muzzle loader. So I've got a friend that has had this for a while, and he said, I'd love to have one of those buckskin scabbards to put my old gun in, and asked me if I'd make one. I said sure, I'd be happy to try. Never done it before, but I'm willing to give it a shot. So he brought it over. So we're going to get started on this project today. So come on in and let's get started. Alright, so on this buckskin that we've got here, we've got a suede side, and then we've got a smooth leather side here. And we're going to put the smooth leather side out. I'm hoping that I have, this is a full skin, deer skin, and I'm hoping that I have enough that once I mark for the scabbard, we'll have enough to come back and take those pieces that we have left over and put a fringe all the way down. So let's go ahead and grab the muzzle loader, and this is absolutely beautiful, and we'll pull this skin out here. And the thing is I want to try to make sure that I get this stretched out. I really would love to have a bigger table here to work off of, but sometimes you can't always have everything. So what I want to do is get this stretched out the best I can and pulled up far enough. And I may have to do it at a little bit of an angle here, because I got to have plenty of length. And it looks like going the other angle is going to be the best way to do this, because of the way the hide is cut. You know what? I'm going to put this down on the floor so I have more space to work with, and I'll bring you over here. Alright, so you can tell at this angle the direction of what's going to be the longest piece here. The only problem is when you get that far over, the way the hide is cut is how much space do you have going the other direction. So we may have to turn this this way, and let's see how much hide we have if we go this direction. And I don't want it super tight. So we'll come on down and pull this down just a little bit more. And it looks like that's going to give me just about the right amount. And it does have some scope rings on it. where he had a scope on it, and I believe he's going to take those off, so won't have to worry about those. But as we pull this down, we've got to make sure that we've got plenty of room here at the end as we stretch this out a little bit and see what we have. And it looks like we're going to have just about the right material. And again, we'll add the fringe on. And it does have a strap, so we'll have to allow for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, to make that look correct, I'm going to go ahead and cut this. Then I can get on top here and just cut enough of that off to make that straight. Like so. Then I can go ahead and contour this bottom piece just the way I did down to this edge right here. So I can start where I left off, and then I can mark that. And go ahead and cut that under piece. Continue where I left off on it. And then remember, I don't want to cut any of this off of the back over here because I want to use that to cover up the buttstock. So kind of like a closure. And I'm thinking I'll actually do maybe just one right there. And we'll clean this up just a little bit. And we'll cut that. We'll clean that edge up. And I'll cut this in kind of a oval shape on the end, like so. And then we'll figure out how we're going to latch that down. I don't want to use a snap. I want to keep it where it looks old. I've got some neat decorative pieces. I've got a bear claw that would look great on this, so I might use it. We'll see how that turns out. I'll put it on there and we'll see what it looks like. So then what I need to do now is go ahead and cut this to finish it off. And I'm just going to cut it from the point where I stopped cutting it in from the side and cut it up toward the oval. And then on the other side, I'll do the same thing. Let's pull that over the butt end. And then cut this side all the way up to where I stopped. Again, I'm trying to keep as much of that on there as possible. So this end, what we'll do is once we get this finished, sewn up, and this buttstock end will also be hemmed, folded over, and hemmed, so it'll kind of have a finished look to it. So we'll trim that as needed when we get to that point. So there's the buttstock end. There's the rest of it. And I've got plenty left over right here and right here on these two pieces. I've got plenty left over for the length of the fringe. And then I'll stitch that inside of the scabbard. So we've got our main piece cut out. The next thing we need to figure out is how long do we want this fringe? And I would say we're going to want it at least 3 inches. Let me grab a ruler. So I can measure that. Yeah, I'd say probably 4 inches. And then if you sew a 1/2 inch of it in to your seam, you'd have 3.5 inches hanging down. So I think I go 4.5. That would leave me 4 inches of fringe hanging down. That's square that off right there. Then I'll come back and I'll do the exact same thing on this side from that same point. And all I'm doing is moving my hand down so I can maintain some pressure on that straight edge. And does this have to be absolutely perfectly straight? No. It'd probably even be better if it wasn't exact, just because of what it is. But so there's my straight edge, except for that little dangler there. I'll straighten that up. Alright, so now we can go ahead and mark that at 4.5 inches. And what I want to do is keep that as straight and as accurate to 4.5 as I possibly can. And this end over here has a real bad wrinkle in it for some reason. So I'm not going to cut this and leave it with the fringe if I don't have to. So we'll see what I can get out of this. Just cutting a straight edge here. And see if I have enough before I cut that off. But I'd just as soon not use that if I don't have to. It looks like I could even get more out of that one. And I'll square up this end that's flat. I can go ahead and square it up. And then let's see if we have enough here. And we want to go from this end to here, which that gives us about, if I cut this wrinkled part off on this end, it'll be perfect. So that gives us a 4-inch fringe all the way down. So let's go ahead and do that. So I can cut this, square this up on that end that had the wrinkled side on it. Make me feel better about not having to use that. So I have plenty over here if I need more. And again, I'm trying to make this out of just one hide. So then the next thing I need to do is I need to start cutting my fringe. So you could mark these all off, every 1/8 of an inch, 3/16, a quarter, whatever you want your fringe to be. And then you could put a line up here to cut from. What I have found when I've made my fringe for other projects like chaps and so on, what I've found is it's easier for me if I just do it by eye. And I just guesstimate, and I think it looks more natural that way anyway, rather than have them each piece exactly the same over and over and over. So I don't think back in history when they made these, the Buckskinners made these, I really doubt, I know they didn't have machines and that to make the fringe perfect, every single one of them match. So that's why I kind of like to do it by hand. And I'm leaving approximately, and I can use my grid here, but approximately a 1/2 inch up here at the top that I'm not going to cut into, because that's where I'm going to stitch it into my seam of the actual scabbard. and then I'm making these probably somewhere between an 1/8 and 3/16 of an inch wide. And again, they're going to vary a little bit in width up and down, just because as I pull my knife through there, as thin as this is, it wants to move a little bit. So I'll show you here in a second, after I get some of these cut, what they look like. And I do have a cork side to this straight edge, this stainless straight edge, and it will hold it a little sturdier, make your cuts maybe a little straighter. So I'll keep an eye on that, try that. Alright, so I've got all of my fringe cut, and that took about 20 to 30 minutes to do that by hand, cutting each one of them using a straight edge and a razor knife. But it's custom length, and it turned out great. It's just the right material to use for that, to make your fringe look great. So this top part will stitch right into where the seam goes. So I'll be stitching all that in on the next video. Alright, so make sure you come back next week to the next video, or check out the next video, when we'll put this fringe in the actual scabbard, and we'll stitch it all up, and we'll put the finishing touch on that closure for the flap that goes over the butt stock of the gun. So I appreciate you coming along, appreciate you watching. Please, if you haven't, hit that subscribe button. I greatly appreciate it. It doesn't cost you anything, it's free to watch. So until next time, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.